This conference will now be recorded.
All right, welcome this evening. This is the Traffic Commission meeting on December 9th, 2021. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to briefly, this meeting is being recorded. I'd like to briefly state the ground rules. Also, just remind folks if there's any members of the public that wish to speak, we have protocols, and you can simply put your request into the chat and be sponsored by someone and be given 2 minutes of which to do so. Meeting ground rules. Listen to the other side. Focus on the issues that are, can't read this right now. Focus on issues, not personalities. Avoid questioning motives. And again, be polite and listen to the other side. So I'd like to take item number 3 out of order if there's any objections, so Nancy Bocci can return to her wonderful vacation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Before I do make my recommendation, I'm sorry, I did want to note Adrienne Pomeroy, the city's new ADA coordinator, is on the call as well. And moving forward, she'll be handling these requests. But since this one had been submitted during the time that I was overseeing this, I thought it would be a good transition time for her to see the process before she actually has to participate.
Wonderful. Hearing no objections to taking item number 3 out of order. Item number 3, request for handicap parking, 323 Somerville Ave. This item is up for discussion.
Thank you. So this has been requested as an HP spot. This was designated as a temporary HP spot during the farmers market season. Bonnie Dennis, who serves as the chair of the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities, reached out inquiring if this could in fact become a permanent HP spot in order to mitigate some of the challenges of finding HP spots available in the Union Square area. So I did go by the location, looked at it, it seems fine, and at this time I am recommending consideration of it being designated as a permanent HP parking spot.
Members of the committee, do we have discussion or questions regarding this item? Hearing none, may I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
All right, so I need to know, are we getting the motion to approve?
Approve.
All right, great. All right, in that case, I'd like to call a roll call vote. Laura, if you could call a roll call vote, please, on the motion to approve item number 3.
Tom Graney,
Aye.
Lieutenant Polito,
Aye.
Counselor Needigang,
Yes.
and Lena Webb.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 4-0.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much. It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure working with all of you. Thank you.
Aye.
Bye.
Jill, you're muted.
Item number 1, open meeting law complaint. Oh my God, we've been doing this for so long and still we forget to do unmute.
Happens to
Discussion of open meeting law complaint filed by Jack Conley against the Traffic Commission on November 23rd, 2021 in connection with claimed inadequate meeting notice for the November 18th, 2021 Traffic Commission meeting. Part B of this, so there's 2 options. In the alternative, executive session pursuant to purpose 1 of the open meeting law, purposes of which the executive session may be held to discuss open meeting law complaint filed by Jack Conley against the Traffic Commission on November 23rd, 2021 in connection with the claimed inadequate meeting notice for the November 18th, 2021 Traffic Commission. May I get a motion on which direction the commission would like to go, either A or B? May I get a motion, please, on A?
If I can
Dave Shapiro, if I could maybe jump in on that.
Yes.
Sure. So I've reviewed the issue, and there are two options available to the commission. From my perspective, I don't see any need to discuss this in executive session. Given the nature of what we're going to be doing, hopefully at this meeting. And then if something comes up that I think triggers that need for executive session, then maybe we can revisit. But at least from my point of view, as I've thought about it, certainly a legal option you have is to do this in executive session, as the meeting notice indicates. That's been approved by the Attorney General for open meeting law complaints to be held in executive session. But if you want to do it in open session, I'm totally fine doing that. I have very little to say tonight, at least on my angle. So hopefully we can, just do this in open session, and we can move on.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would strongly prefer to discuss this in open session. Unless Assistant Solicitor Shapiro has some strong reason why we should go into executive session, I don't see any reason that this needs to be discussed in secret. I always think it's better to be transparent and open with all matters whenever possible. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion on A, please.
I'll make the motion on A for discussion of the open meeting law. Under
Second.
option,
Okay, number A option. Laura, can you call a roll call vote on item number A, number 1A, as an option to choose tonight?
Tom Graney,
yes.
Lieutenant Polito,
Yes.
Counselor Needagang,
Yes.
and Lena Webb.
Yes.
Okay, so by a motion of 4-0, we will go to item number 1, option A.
Thank you.
Okay.
So item 1A is up for discussion?
Sure. If I could just jump in. The only vote I would need from the commission tonight is essentially a vote to authorize me to respond on your behalf to the open meeting law complaint. That would be the sort of the end result of what I'd be asking for. From my point of view, the notice was sufficient, and I will be taking that position when I respond to the open meeting law complaint, and I will file an answer with the Attorney General's office to that effect. So I would just ask for a roll call vote to authorize me to respond on your behalf, as I would normally do for any board or commission that had no open meeting law complaint filed against it.
Yes, Counselor Needagang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm delighted to hear Mr. Shapiro say that, but I have to say, reading former Counselor Connolly's complaint, it doesn't look good for what was done. Speaking honestly, just in terms of the appearance, all that was noticed on the November 18th agenda for something like 5 items, 2 of which were extremely long and complex, the College Avenue street reformatting and parking removal issue. All that was noticed was, quote, request for the Traffic Commission to reaffirm and ratify its approval of all items on the July 15th, 2021 agenda with a roll call vote. So, this may legally qualify, and I'm not an attorney. I would never challenge Mr. Shapiro on his legal opinion. But, speaking as one member of the commission, to me, we should be giving much more detailed notice about what it is we're discussing to the public. So I'm not saying we shouldn't do as Mr. Shapiro has suggested, and I'm prepared to do that, to have him file this. But this is my last traffic commission meeting. And so I won't be here to fuss and fight about these things going forward. But I hope that in the future, the commission and staff will err on the side of too much information and including things on agendas and in public notices rather than too little. That's all I have to say on this matter for now. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question. I guess the definition of open meeting law, is that about sufficient notice? Is it about when you post the agenda versus the content of the agenda? So I'm curious what open meeting law means in this case for the complaint that's being put forward. So clarifying question.
Sure, I can answer that. It's all of them, all of the above. The open meeting law is a very broad statute. It covers what needs to be in the notice, how much in advance of the meeting you must give with the notice, what are the contents of the notice, what has to be in there. So it's all covered. And the open meeting law complaint, can challenge any particular statute or provision, that deals with the open meeting law statute. In this particular case here, the complaint that was filed says that the meeting notice was insufficient. The open meeting law requires that the notice be sufficient to notify the public as to the topic to be discussed at the meeting, right? And from my point of view, it did that. It put the public on notice that there would be a roll call vote taken for the items that were discussed at the previous July meeting, and that's, in my view, sufficient. So that will be our position that when I file the response.
And just a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
Sorry, excuse me. A follow-up question to that is it our policy that the agenda is posted publicly 1 week before the meeting? I don't know if that's a question for Laura or
That's
Suzanne.
probably a question for someone else from policy. As a matter of statute, it must be 48 hours in advance of your meeting law, but I don't know what your practice is on whether you do that longer or shorter. I don't know the answer to that. Laura might know that, or somebody else.
Laura, Suzanne, can you answer that question?
Yeah. Sure. So typically we try to get it posted the week before, so at some point on the Thursday prior. That was at the request of Councilor Needigang several years ago. We've followed that as best we can. I don't always get items on time. Sometimes last minute things come up, so the agenda will change. Sometimes I'm on vacation, but always the 48 hours, always. And mostly the 1 week prior is followed.
Thank you, Laura. That's been my experience in what I receive in terms of receiving the agenda and any updates to the agenda.
Yep.
Any further discussion on Mr. Shapiro's willingness to take this on and respond? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Great. Is your motion to approve Mr. Shapiro to respond to this complaint? Nina?
I'm sorry, do we need a second?
I just want to clarify what your motion, that you're motioning that we allowed Mr. Shapiro to respond to this complaint.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes, correct.
And Needigang, you're seconding that motion?
No, I would prefer somebody else second that.
I'll second that.
I'll second the motion.
Wonderful. Laura, can we get a roll call vote on Mr. Shapiro being approved to respond to this complaint?
Yep. Tom Graney,
Yes.
Councilor Needigang,
Yes.
Lieutenant Polito,
Yes.
and Lena Webb.
Yes.
Okay, so by a vote of 4-0, the Traffic Commission votes to authorize David Shapiro to respond on behalf of the commission to the open meeting law complaint to the Attorney General.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Okay. And I guess item number 2 will be, I guess, skipped because there's no need for executive session, if that makes sense.
Yes. All righty. So moving on. Item number 2, acceptance of the minutes from the November 18th, 2021 Traffic Commission meeting. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
In a second. Lena, can you second?
I'll second it.
Yes, I can second.
Thank
You
you.
hit the wrong button.
Laura, can I get a roll call vote on item number 2 to accept the minutes from?
Just a statement, please.
Yes, please.
Before we vote, I just want to say that I really appreciate how thorough the minutes are. I read them every month, and they really capture, the essence of the discussion and the details. I think that's really important. I just want to say, thank you to Laura for doing such a good job on the minutes.
Thank you.
I second that.
Well, thank you all. Okay, so I'm going to do the roll call vote. Tom Gramey,
Yes.
Counselor Needegang,
Yes.
Lieutenant Polito,
Yes.
and Lena Webb.
Yes.
Okay, so by a vote of 4-0, the minutes are approved.
Thank you. I'm going to read item number 4, and then I have a request from the submitter. Item number 4, requests for approximately 60 feet of curb space on the Berkeley side street of 57 Canal Street, Central Street, currently regulated as a loading zone, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., to be regulated as permit parking only. Councilor Ben Campbell has requested that this be delayed indefinitely, so we can get some more information on this request before this is brought back before the Traffic Commission. So there's been a request for this to be not taken up this evening or for discussion or approval or denial until more information is had. So is there any discussion on that request to delay this particular item? Mr. Needegang, Councilor Needegang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Soon I will be Mr. Niedergang again, or more, hopefully. Yeah, I'm familiar with this. I did speak with Councilor Ewan Camp, and I also spoke with the owners of the property. It's a building that has been artist studios for 3 decades, and the owners are in the process of selling it, and it had become almost empty, but the sale has not gone through yet, so they're putting more people in there, and so it's still active. And there's also still a woodworking shop in there, so they need the loading zone. And I would like to make a motion to lay this on the table, and and just have it sit indefinitely until it gets brought back. There may be a change in the status of the property if it's sold. So that would be my desire if that's something that is done in the Traffic Commission. I don't recall that ever being done, but generally something can be laid on the table and just kind of be in a holding bin until somebody asks that it be, brought back up. Thank you. So that would be the motion that I would want to make, to lay it on the table.
Lena?
Madam Chair, I would also speak up in support of this. I think it's really important that we think about making space for loading zones, especially in the interest of, in this case, cultural arts, and then also supporting our local businesses through the woodworking. So I would also, if the option here is to let it be, I would also let it be.
Any further discussion on putting this back on the table and for a delay? Hearing none, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Can I second?
I'll
Get a second?
it.
Great,
Lena second.
wonderful. Laura, can you do a roll?
Could we have clarification on exactly what the motion is?
The motion is to delay indefinitely item number 4, leave that on the table for this particular request for the 60 feet of curb space on Berkeley Side Street, 57 Central Street, currently regulated as a loading zone, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. to be regulated as permit parking only. There's been a request to delay this indefinitely to get more information.
Right, thank you.
Laura, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Yep. Tom Graney,
Yes.
Counselor Needagang,
Yes?
Lieutenant Polito,
yes,
and Lena Webb.
Yes.
Okay, so by a vote of 4 to nothing, the Traffic Commission will table indefinitely item number 4.
Wonderful, thank you, Laura. Item number 5, request to add official public hearing to each Traffic Commission agenda. This is open for discussion.
Madam Chair, may I speak on this?
Sure.
Thank you. First, thank you to Laura for getting this on the agenda. I submitted this rather late. I appreciate getting this on. So again, this is my last meeting, and I've been thinking about, given all the criticism that this body has received, which I've taken to heart and I think has been difficult to hear. I've been thinking a lot about what we can do to be more open and transparent and have the public more involved and engaged and have more of an ability to weigh in on the decisions that we make. When I first became a city councilor 8 years ago, the Traffic Commission was making decisions that didn't have great importance. A few parking spaces here, bus stop change there, handicap spaces there, those kinds of things. Then a few years ago, you may recall, we made a very important decision that changed the status of people getting parking permits in new developments within a half a mile of transit, so that people who were moving into these big new apartment buildings couldn't get parking permits or even guest permits to park on the street. That was a decision that we made. That was a very significant decision, I think a very important decision. And then since then, we've removed parking in Powderhouse Circle. We just had the big College Avenue discussion, and streetscape changes, parking changes, regulation changes, parking removal. Holland Street is coming up, Highland Avenue. This body, which once was kind of a sleepy little group that really didn't make important decisions, is now, in my opinion, making among the most important decisions in the city that affect the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of residents. Given that, and I think this is kind of snuck up on us, and all of a sudden, basically, we're going from, the minor leagues to the big time. We're in the major leagues now, this commission is, in terms of the decisions that we're making, its impact, the publicity it has, and how much residents and business people care about it. So I think, along with that, I think, the commission needs to open up and change some of its ways. And I'm not sure what all of those are, and I regret that I didn't bring this up earlier, but one thought that I've had, and I don't have a well worked out proposal, but my thinking is that, at any time, a member of the public should know that they could come to one of these meetings and speak on an issue that they're concerned about. Now, in fact, in all my 4 years on the commission, every chair has always allowed anybody who wanted to speak to do so. But when somebody looks at the agenda, or if they see that an issue is being discussed, if somebody tells them it's being discussed at this meeting, they wouldn't necessarily know that. So they might not show up because they say, well, I can't say anything, I can't affect it. So I feel like it's important to communicate to the public in our agendas that people will have an opportunity to speak. But I know that's not a small matter. And, I wanted to bring this up, and not necessarily to resolve it tonight, but to bring it up as a matter of discussion, in the hope that if it's not resolved tonight, the commission will continue to discuss it and figure out what works. I mean, my suggestion would be to have, say that on the agenda, something like, a a public hearing will be held on any item which a member of the public wants to comment on, and then leave it to the chair's discretion exactly how that happens. So it could be at the beginning of the meeting. That's the way some boards and commissions do it. It could be before the particular item when it's discussed, which I think has been the custom of this commission. But I just wanted to throw the idea out, see what other members think. And if we're not ready to, put something into effect now, hopefully it will be continue to be discussed next year. And this will be part of the operation of the Traffic Commission going forward. So thank you for hearing me out on this. And I'm really interested in people's thoughts and comments.
Committee members, thoughts, comments?
I think everything that
Chair,
Mark said.
Go ahead, Lena.
Well, I have a couple of questions. So, Lieutenant Polito, if you wanna go first.
Oh, I was
Kinda
just
got in
saying
there.
that I agreed with everything that Mark said. Thought he made a lot of sense just now, and I think it's a good way to go.
My question actually is, yeah, sorry, I was just kind of wondering a clarification point between what is quote unquote a public hearing versus what is a public meeting, and how do the public meetings that Mobility puts out, 3 public meetings, various means of outreach. I guess to technical question, what is the difference between a public meeting and a public hearing? Councilor Niedergang.
My understanding is that a public hearing is an official part of a public meeting where a member of the public is allowed to speak to the decision makers. Public meetings may or may not allow members of the public to speak. It is true that on most of the major decisions that the Traffic Commission has been making, especially around street configuration and parking removal, there have been often several or many public meetings where members of the public have had an opportunity to participate, share their views, to speak out. And there's often been a lot of public discussion on these items. My own opinion is that that's not sufficient because this body is a decision-making body, and I think it's always important that the people who have the power to make a decision have the ability to hear directly from members of the public with concerns after all the meetings and emails and public discussion has happened. So that's how I would distinguish between. There are many public meetings, but for example, the City Council, we don't have public hearings at most of our meetings, and members of the public are not permitted to speak routinely at City Council meetings. Now that may be something that should change as well, but just as an example.
A follow-up statement then. I do think that Mobility's done a great job to come and also present some of the same slides that they do at the public meeting for the benefit of the commission. So I think that with the larger projects, with College, with Broadway and the bus lanes, either Justin or Adam or Brad or all of them will come and they will give a good slideshow so that anyone who hasn't been at those public meetings that's on our commission does get to see, kind of visualize what is being proposed to us to vote on. So I thank Mobility for that.
Further discussion? I just have just some questions. As the chair, should this committee, move forward with this, I would really want some boundaries and clarifications for those members that are going to be speaking, some time limits on that, that we are really set up technology-wise to do this in a way that's going to be helpful to the public so that they can be heard, such as identifying themselves or, residents or businesses. But also, I don't know, being a new chair, my other question is there any part of the administration that has, any opinion on this, or is this going to be a larger part of, charter review or things like that? Those are just some of my questions. I don't know if Councilor Niedergang, you have some input on that or some opinions on that.
I'll give you the answers that I know. I mean, I certainly, you know, as the chair, you will be the person most responsible for implementing this. So as I said, I'm certainly, you know, happy to not make a motion tonight so you can have time to talk with members of the administration about this, get suggestions and thoughts. You know, my experience running public hearings and being present at many of them, they're standard at the zoning board and the planning board, and now at the Somerville Redevelopment Authority, is that basically it's at the discretion of the chair, and the chair develops protocols with staff, you know, like whether 2-minute limit, this timer is showing, whether people can speak once or twice, or allowing them to speak twice, and all of those rules and regs are basically established by the chair. And you don't have to be formal and written rules, but as the chair of the meeting, the chair basically gets to determine all of that. So, you know, you could have some protocols and also leave room for flexibility if you wanted. Essentially, as the chair, you pretty much get to do it as you wish.
Yeah.
Obviously, one hopes that the chair does so fairly, but I've seen, especially in the old days, when politics was a bit rougher, I've seen chairs, you know, do this really badly and thoughtlessly, in ways that you just hold your head and cringe because it's not fair. You know, they're just not, don't treat the public well. But obviously, you would never do that, Madam Chair. You would do this very thoughtfully and considerately. And, you know, I think, you know, generally the chair has a lot of discretion in how a public hearing is run.
I would just like, you know, I really want to be intentional and thoughtful and equitable and fair as possible. And you know, I'm a big fan of just some policies and procedures and some standards. So I want to be consistent if this is implemented, which, you know, I'm always welcoming to hear from the public and look forward, you know, want to make sure that folks feel included and part of the process. So that's kind of my thoughts. Lena?
Yeah, I think that for an agenda item, it is, I mean, this is not an insult, but it is sort of a vague statement. And I don't think that we will necessarily be able to make concrete changes like what we're going to put on the next agenda tonight. My question is, do we ever as a body meet to talk about this kind of stuff outside of our monthly meeting? Because it seems to me like this is something that will require some discussion and outside knowledge of what other groups do. And I wonder if this is better suited for an off-cycle conversation where we can all talk about what this means to us, what it means to, like you said, what are the limits? Are we going to impose a 2-minute limit like we do in public meetings? There's just lots of details to work out what a public hearing will mean moving forward. And I don't know if everyone's up for it tonight, then that's cool. But like you said, Jill, there's a lot of questions, and I wonder if we could have a discussion, maybe with outside input, other commissions or committees that, you know, operate and have, you know what I mean? I guess my question is, like, do we ever meet to discuss stuff like this outside of like the monthly schedule, especially if it's a bigger change like this?
Councilor Needigang?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Webb, for those questions. I think those are good questions. It's my opinion that any discussions among the commission about matters like this should be held in public so that members of the public are able to view them and be aware of them. I think it's fine for individual commission members, the chair, or any member to consult with city staff about how this might be done. And I think your idea about perhaps bringing somebody into the next meeting from the mayor's office or somewhere else in city government, the solicitor's office, who's experienced with this to advise the commission would certainly be a good thing to do. You know, given the, I think, very reasonable and thoughtful concerns, I don't feel right moving forward with this tonight, so I'm not going to make a motion. And, you know, I did bring this up at the last minute, and Madam Chair, I apologize for not speaking with you about it before the meeting. So, you know, I guess what I would do is I'd like to withdraw this item for now, but just, you know, ask of the commission that you consider this in the coming months with, whoever my successor from the council is on it, and that you seriously consider implementing some kind of formal opportunity for any member of the public who wants to speak to the commission at the decision point about matters that are before the commission. So I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to withdraw this for the time being.
Mark,
Make it a fact.
excuse me,
Yes, welcome
do you
discussion.
want to just table this for the time being indefinitely? Do you want to
Well, how
just
about-
table this?
Let me say, I just table it, not indefinitely, but I'll make the motion not to withdraw it, but to table it so that it can be brought back up, hopefully into the January or February meeting for further discussion. So that's my motion, to table this. Thank you, Tom.
Okay,
All right, hearing a motion to table this for further discussion and review. And I'd also just want to say, as a chair, I'd like some more opportunities as well. I want to make sure this is a thoughtful and intentional process for our public. So thank you, Councilor Needigang, for your motion to table. Lena?
I'll second it, but I also want to say too, Jill, that you did raise a good point about the charter reform that's ongoing. And I think with the new administration, we're going to have a new mayor. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this kind of conversation. My question is just, what would that forum look like? And so that's something, yeah, like we'll have it open, but if it's going to be part of our monthly meetings, maybe that's something to think about, or if it's going to be a separate thing. But like you said, charter reform, we have a new mayor coming, like there's going to be a lot of opportunity to like fine tune and update what we're doing now. So I will second the motion to table this for now, hopefully pending a lot of really good conversations moving forward.
Wonderful. Laura, can I get a roll call vote to table this for now? Yeah,
Madam Chair,
Councilor
on
Needigang.
discussion, I'd like to speak some more in discussing the item in response to what Ms. Webb has said. So I don't know what charter reform will bring, but I doubt that it will come into effect in less than a year, and it could be several years or never. There's been plenty of efforts for charter reform before that never went anywhere. I think this is a more immediate concern. I don't think this can wait for a year. This is standard practice for the Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Board, the Somerville Redevelopment Authority. The City Council doesn't have a public hearing at every meeting, but often has meetings at which there are public hearings. And, I think this body is similar to the Zoning Board, the Planning Board, and the Redevelopment Authority in the way it operates and decisions that it makes. And I think that it should have a public hearing as well. So I would hope that the charter reform issue doesn't kind of delay this indefinitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I didn't know, how many years that may span. So that's good. Thanks for letting me know.
Muted. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion to table for the time being, and I have a second to table. May I get a roll call vote, Laura, please?
Yes. Tom Graney,
yes,
Councilor Needigang,
Yes.
Lieutenant Polito,
Yes.
and Lena Webb.
Yes.
Okay, so by a vote of 0, this item will be laid on the table.
Before we conclude and make our final motion, I wanted to, Councilor Needigang, it has been an honor and a pleasure to work with you, sir. I value you as a human being. I value your honesty and your ability to tackle tough subjects and to consistently and honorably hold us accountable for what's really important and valued to our residents. And sometimes that may not be popular. It may be cumbersome to kind of work through, but the heroic way in which you plow forward to advocate for the citizens of Somerville is truly, truly, I'm grateful for. So thank you so much for your service, and you will be missed.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Madam Chair. And I just want to say that I will miss you and everybody on the Traffic Commission. This body has really become close to my heart, and it's been very meaningful to be a part of it. And I'm really glad to have had the opportunity. So thank you.
Wonderful.
I'll second that, Mark.
Good luck, Mark, and everything you choose to do in the future.
Thank you. I'll be around. You'll be hearing from me.
I'm sure I will.
Councilor Needigang, it'd be an honor for you to make this final motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to adjourn.
May I get a second?
I second it.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Good luck, Mark.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
See you all around.
Merry Christmas. Happy
Yeah,
holidays.
that's right. Merry Christmas to everyone.